My name is Adam Martin. I'm the Vice President of Pre-Construction at Kent Design Build, and I wanted to give you a tour today of the chapel, one of our recent projects that we just completed. When this project began, they really didn't have a venue that was still intimate for weddings and funerals and special events. Their current auditorium seats over 2,000 people, and so they needed a place that was going to serve the community in a really intimate setting. And so the idea and the need for the chapel was birthed. One of the goals of the building was to have this traditional wedding chapel. And in every chapel, historically speaking, or even in the picture book in your mind, there's front steps. And so having the ability for wedding parties or families to gather on the front steps of the chapel was important. And so we began to prepare and to design the site elevations and grades in such a way to accommodate the need for these steps, which also I'll show you a little later. We'll be able to see the result of why these steps were important and how that impacted the rest of the project. As we arrive, we're now standing under the bell tower. You're introduced and welcomed by a grand 11-foot tall mahogany doors. So architecturally, we wanted this vestibule to have a low ceiling so that as you enter, it kind of gives you this experience of being outside, kind of being shuttled interior with a low ceiling and then opened up to a grand foyer. One of the things that was a primary goal was for the architectural design and materials to use historic, antique materials, but in a modern way. As we enter in, you'll notice that the radius of these trusses and the radius of the front glass wall all align, creating this entire effect all the way through. Obviously, the wedding is probably one of the most, if not the most important day in any girl's life. And so we wanted to create a space that was special to her, thinking about all the things that she would want and need on her special day. And so in this room, she has a private bathroom, there's a full makeup counter. At the same time, there's a dress rack, there's a refreshment area where they can have food and beverages as they get ready for the entire day. And it overlooks the courtyard. So this entire space was uniquely designed and prepared for that purpose. So you've probably noticed these doors behind me as we're about to enter the chapel. These doors are handmade, 11-foot tall, solid walnut doors. We wanted them to be solid in nature so that in that moment where the bride opens the doors to be seen, it gives that special reveal. And so there's also clear glass around these doors so that when the doors are shut, when everyone else is gathering, they can kind of get a sense of interest into the chapel, but it's not until those doors are open do you really get the full experience. So now I'm standing in the chapel itself. This room holds 300 people. You see the same architectural materials and finishes as we saw in the main foyer. White oak flooring, handmade white oak pews, architectural pine trusses, 3 inches thick structural roof deck, tongue and groove, full audio, lighting, and cameras to complete the full experience of the chapel project. Particularly, we gave special attention to what was visible and not visible in this room. So in today's modern times, we're obviously bound by code and a lot of these modern regulations that we're having to do in public commercial buildings. One of those was a sprinkler system, obviously, in a room that holds this many people. It was a requirement. At the same time, that can usually not be something that is aesthetically pleasing, and so a building that has exposed ceilings, that became a major challenge in the beginning. We also wanted to give special attention to how we were going to integrate the lighting, to not see wires run and things of that nature. And so as you notice, the sprinkler system, the lighting, is completely invisible. We've concealed all of those measures through the architectural beams. We also specially planned where every light fixture will go. It's mounted particularly on a certain side of the truss, so as guests arrive, they don't see those light fixtures. And we had to run all those wires on top of the roof in order to be able to penetrate exactly where those lights needed to be. So for days and days and days, hours and hours and hours, we coordinated every detail like this in this design build project. So now at the platform and altar area, you see one of the major backdrops is this beautiful stained glass window. This is a custom piece, Tiffany in style, And all these pieces were made uniquely for this project. It's truly a one-of-a-kind piece. We wanted something that was Southern elegance, so you see this kind of Southern magnolia theme in the glass, but also give this modern twist, which would be unique to this project. So now we've exited the chapel and we're standing in the courtyard itself. So as you leave, you then exit into this beautiful outdoor courtyard. It's complete with fountains, exterior hardscaping, full landscaping, and audio, full lighting as well. This is a space where anyone would want to gather. When our team first arrived on this site, when it was completely undeveloped, greens field, had a lot of underbrush and trees on it. When we walked the property, we found this beautiful live oak tree, 94-foot wingspan. This tree had to be preserved. And so when we found it, we all agreed that the project had to be designed in such a way to preserve this tree and integrate it into the design itself. And so this tree is particularly laid out on the center axis of the site. So if there was an outdoor gathering or wedding, as that bride entered the rear gates and she comes down the walkway, that live oak tree is the center focal point of the entire experience. That canopy provides the umbrella over that entire wedding. So if you remember earlier, I told you about the 3 steps to the front of the chapel. Well, because we wanted those steps to the front of the chapel, there was also a challenge on the rear of the site that we had to contend with. This live oak tree, in order to preserve it, we couldn't bring in additional fill materials and change the grades. Otherwise, we would jeopardize the life of the tree. And so in order to preserve that tree, we decided to hold the natural grade, but we also had to provide the elevation in the front of the chapel to get those 3 steps. And so what you see now is the result of those 2 decisions. The courtyard now has this depressed area with these grand steps leading down into it that both was a construction design by intent and also just a natural result of the grade of the site. So I'm now standing in the prayer garden. One of the visions for this building was to have a boulder fountain and also an area where people could gather to pray. One of the needs was that anybody could pull off the highway literally and come and pray and meet with the Lord in this place. And so what you see in this outdoor prayer area is fountains, you see stones with scripture verses on them, and just a space that was intentionally designed and planned and constructed for the exact purpose. So now to conclude our tour, I'm going to show you what we call the garden room. So this room is very similar in style, design, and construction as the main chapel. You see complete tongue and groove ceilings, vaulted double ridges, framed intersecting into this space. We actually use a luxury vinyl plank in here, exact replica of the real wood flooring next door, because this area has food service with a warming kitchen, and it provides an intimate place for families to gather for a reception, for a meeting, for a funeral, and many other uses. Thanks again for joining me. Again, my name is Adam. I hope you enjoyed this brief tour. This was a special project to us, and design build was really the key element that made everything go great.